Good evening. Let your shoulders drop just a little. You do not need to hold anything tightly right now. There is no test coming, no number to recall, no decision that needs to be made before morning. Find a comfortable position if you have not already. Let your body feel the weight of wherever you have chosen to rest tonight. Let your hands go soft. Breathe in slowly and out. Tonight, we are going to spend some quiet time with one simple idea. The idea of giving your money a direction. Not a rigid direction, not a stressful one. Just a soft and steady direction. The way a river finds its way to the sea without anyone needing to push it. You do not need to take notes. You do not need to remember any numbers. If you fall asleep before the end, that is exactly fine. The ideas will still be here for you whenever you need them. So settle in. Let the room grow quiet. We are in no hurry at all. The word budget carries a lot of weight for a lot of people. For some, it brings back a feeling of restriction, of counting every coin and finding there is not quite enough, of spreadsheets and guilt and the constant low hum of financial anxiety. The sense that money is always a problem to be managed, a shortfall to be defended against. If that is what the word brings up for you, let us set it gently aside for a moment. Because what we are really talking about tonight is something much softer than that. A budget is not a cage. A budget is a plan for your values. Sit with that for a moment. When you decide where your money goes, you are not just moving numbers around. You are saying something about yourself, about what matters to you, about the kind of life you are quietly choosing to build, one small decision at a time. If you spend money on a comfortable bed, you are saying that rest matters to you. If you put a little aside each month, you are saying that your future self matters to you. If you spend on cooking and good ingredients and shared meals, you are saying that nourishment and connection matter to you. None of that is restriction. All of that is intention. And intention is a very different feeling than deprivation. A budget at its heart is simply a way of being intentional, of looking at your money before it flows away and saying, quietly and without drama, "This is what I want my life to look like." And then doing your best to let your spending follow that. That is all it is. most of us were never taught this. We were taught to spend carefully, to save a little, to avoid debt when possible. But the deeper practice, the practice of asking what you actually want your money to be doing, and then arranging things accordingly, that is rarely taught anywhere. And when you approach it that way, something genuinely shifts. The anxiety begins to soften. The guilt loosens its grip, because you are no longer chasing a perfect number or judging yourself against some external standard. You are simply trying to live in alignment with what you care about. You are trying to make your money match your life. That is a gentler place to begin, and it is the place we will begin from tonight. Imagine your money as water that flows into your hands each month. Not a specific amount, just whatever it happens to be for you right now. It flows in, and then it flows somewhere. It always flows somewhere. The question of budgeting is simply this: where does it flow? There is a beautiful and simple shape that has been quietly guiding thoughtful people for a long time. Not a complicated formula, not a rigid system, just a shape. And it goes like this. Your money naturally belongs in 3 places, 3 streams. The first stream is for your needs. These are the things that keep your life running. The roof over your head, the food on your table, the warmth in winter, the transport that moves you through the world, the basic utilities that let modern life function, insurance that protects you from large, sudden shocks, medicine, the essentials without which everything else becomes harder. These are not glamorous, but they are the foundation. Without them, nothing else is possible. When this stream is full and steady, you have a kind of bedrock, a quiet security that runs underneath your days and lets you think about other things. The second stream is for your joys. This is the part that makes life feel alive. It might be a meal at a restaurant you love, a concert or a film, a book that absorbs you completely, a weekend away somewhere quiet, a coffee shared with a friend on a slow morning, a hobby that fills an afternoon with meaning and pleasure. Your joys are not frivolous. They are not the first thing to be cut when times are slightly tight, not if there is any way to preserve them. A person who has no joys in their budget is a person who is surviving, not living. And surviving for too long without joy has a cost of its own. The cost of feeling like life is all obligation and no pleasure. That cost is real, even if it never appears on a balance sheet. The third stream is for your future. This is the money you set aside before you spend it on anything else, if you can manage that. The small portion you do not touch today, that sits in a savings account or begins to grow slowly over time. That is quietly building something month after month, year after year. The future stream is the one that eventually sets you free. Not dramatically, not overnight, but slowly, the way water carves a canyon. You would not know, looking at a young river, that one day it will have shaped the stone entirely. But it will. Time and steady flow are the whole mechanism. 3 streams: needs, joys, future. You do not need exact percentages tonight. You do not need to calculate anything or reach for your phone to check any numbers. Different lives call for different proportions, and those proportions shift over time as circumstances change. What matters is the shape, the recognition that all 3 streams deserve to flow, that a life built only on needs is a thin life, that a life where everything flows toward joys and nothing toward the future is a fragile one, that a life where the future gets everything and the present gets nothing is a kind of self-abandonment. All 3 streams, in amounts that feel right for your life as it is now. Just let the shape of it rest in your mind. There is a phrase that some thoughtful people use when they talk about budgeting, and it goes like this: give every coin a job. It sounds a little funny at first. Coins do not want jobs. They have no preferences, no opinions, no sense of urgency. But the meaning behind the phrase is genuinely useful. It means that when money arrives in your hands, you decide where it is going before it simply disappears into the general flow of your life. You give it a direction, a purpose. You make a quiet decision in advance so that when spending happens, it is moving towards something rather than away from something. When your income arrives, even before you spend a single thing, you think, a portion of this goes to the future. Another portion goes to needs. And what remains is for joys, for living, for the texture of ordinary days. When you do this, something changes in your relationship with money. It stops feeling like something that slips through your fingers. It starts feeling like something you are in quiet, ongoing conversation with. Most people without this practice find that money simply flows toward the most urgent thing, the bill that is due today, the dinner they are hungry for this evening, the impulse that catches them on a tired afternoon when the day has been long and something small feels like a reward. And then at the end of the month, the money is gone, and the exact path it took is a little hazy. There is no shame in that. That is how money behaves when it has not been given direction. It is not a character flaw. It is simply what happens when we are busy living and not quite paying attention, because life demands so much attention as it is. Giving every coin a job is the gentle antidote. It does not need to be complicated. It does not require special software, a spreadsheet, a complicated system with subcategories and color codes. It can be as simple as 3 places, physical or imagined. 3 envelopes, 3 jars, 3 lines in a notebook, 3 accounts at a bank, or 3 mental categories you carry with you. 1 for the future, 1 for needs, 1 for living. When money comes in, it gets sorted, not frantically, not with great ceremony, just quietly with a few moments of intention. And then you go about your life, knowing the sorting has been done, knowing that the future is being looked after, knowing that the roof and the food and the basics are covered, knowing that there is something set aside for the pleasures that make ordinary days feel worth having. That is a settled feeling, a calm feeling. It is what giving every coin a job makes possible. Not certainty. Life does not offer certainty, but a soft and genuine sense of being in charge of your own direction. You may have tried to track every expense before, every coffee, every small purchase, the little things that add up. The transaction you swore you would write down and then did not. The category you tried to maintain for 2 weeks and then lost track of in a busy stretch. If you have tried that kind of close, detailed tracking and found it exhausting, I understand. That kind of microscopic accounting tends to feel like homework, and homework is not restful. After a while, it begins to feel like punishment, and anything that feels like punishment eventually gets avoided. Here is a gentler way to think about it. You do not need to track every coin as it leaves. What you need, far more than perfect records, is a rough sense of how your streams are flowing. A sense of direction, not a perfect accounting of every drop. At the end of a month, or even just occasionally, not obsessively, not with dread, you can simply look back and ask yourself a few quiet questions. Did the needs get covered? Did anything feel precarious or tight this month? Did I have some joys? Did I spend time and money on things that actually mattered to me? Or did I spend on things that I barely remember, and that left me feeling flat? Did anything go toward the future, even something small? That is tracking. That is the kind of awareness that makes a real and lasting difference. Not the tracking of every transaction, but the awareness of whether the three streams are moving in the right direction. You are not looking for perfection. You are looking for balance, for a sense that the water is flowing as it should be, that no stream is completely dry and no stream is flooding everything else. If you do want to go a little deeper, there is one habit that many people find quietly transformative. At the end of each week, just a few minutes, nothing more, you look at what you spent. Not to judge yourself, not to feel guilty about the restaurant meal or the impulse buy or the thing you bought because you were tired. Just to notice. Noticing is a kind of power. When you notice without judgment, patterns emerge gently. You begin to see that certain things you spend money on bring you a warmth when you look back at them. A real, settled satisfaction. And other things bring a faint flatness, a mild wondering why you did that. A sense that the money went somewhere, but the life it purchased was not quite what you wanted. That information is useful, not because you need to immediately change anything, but because awareness is the first step toward alignment. And alignment, as we will talk about shortly, is what all of this is really for. Tracking lightly means staying aware without turning awareness into a burden. It means checking in with your money the way you might check in with someone you care about. Not every hour, not with anxiety, but regularly, with genuine attention and a small amount of warmth. Here is a moment that comes for most of us. You look at your income, you look at your needs, and the space between them feels very small. Or perhaps there is no space at all. When that happens, budgeting does not feel like a gentle exercise in values. It feels like trying to arrange something when there is nothing to arrange. Like trying to squeeze water from a dry cloth. If that is where you are right now, I want to say something carefully. You are not doing anything wrong, and a budget cannot solve a problem of insufficient income. There is no allocation method, no clever framework, no wise principle that can make an income that is genuinely too small feel easy. If the needs stream is consuming everything that flows in, and there is nothing left for joys or the future, that is not a failure of discipline or intention. That is a reality, and it deserves to be named honestly rather than papered over with advice that assumes more room than exists. What a budget can do in that situation is help you see, with as much clarity as possible, where things stand. It can help you identify, gently, whether there are any places where the flow could shift slightly, whether there are things in the needs category that might be questioned, a subscription unused, a plan that could be simplified, a habit that has quietly become a fixed cost without ever being consciously chosen. Those small adjustments, when they are possible, do matter. Not because they fix everything, but because they create breathing room. Even a small amount of breathing room changes the feeling of a month. It changes the quality of attention available to you. It makes the path forward feel slightly less narrow. And sometimes the answer is not on the spending side at all. Sometimes the conversation turns necessarily toward income, toward what skills could be offered differently, toward small steps that point in a new direction over time. Those conversations are longer ones, and they are not for tonight. For tonight, the gentler thing to say is this: a budget is a tool. Tools work best when there is something for them to work with. When there is a little room, even a little, the three streams can begin to flow. And even a thin future stream, started early and kept steady, becomes something real over time. And when there is no room right now, when just keeping the needs covered is the whole task, you can hold the shape of the three streams in your mind as a picture of where you are going. Not a judgment of where you are, just a direction, a soft, patient direction. Let us go a little deeper into the heart of why this practice matters beyond just the numbers. There is something that many people experience, and it goes like this. You earn a reasonable income. Things are manageable, or mostly manageable. You are not in serious trouble. And yet, at the end of the month, there is a quiet dissatisfaction you cannot quite name. A sense that the money went somewhere, that the month happened, but you are not quite sure the life it purchased was the one you actually wanted. Does that feel familiar at all? It is more common than you might think. This is what happens when spending and values have drifted apart. Over time, without any single dramatic decision, money begins to flow toward habits and defaults rather than choices. The streaming service you signed up for 2 years ago that you watch rarely now. The expensive habit you would not choose consciously if you stopped to think about it. The lunch bought every day not because it brings you pleasure, but because you are tired and it is convenient, and the act of choosing something else feels like more than you have energy for. None of those things are terrible, but they are not aligned. They are on autopilot rather than on purpose. And money on autopilot tends to buy a kind of generic life, one assembled from defaults rather than from actual desire. The practice of budgeting, when done gently, is a practice of bringing those automatic flows back into view, of looking once in a while at where the money actually went and asking a simple question: does this match who I am? Does this reflect what I care about? Sometimes the answer is yes, actually. It turns out the things you spend on do reflect your values beautifully. That is worth noticing and worth appreciating. It is a sign that your autopilot has been well calibrated and that you can trust it. But often, there are 1 or 2 places where the answer is not quite, not a disaster, just a small drift, a gap between spending and caring. And when you see those places without self-criticism, just as information, you have the possibility of making a different choice next time. This is not about becoming a different person. It is about becoming more yourself, about making sure the life your money is building is actually the life you want to be living. Spending that is aligned with your values does not feel like sacrifice. It feels like expression. It feels like living on purpose rather than by accident. And there is a deep, quiet satisfaction in that. A satisfaction that has nothing to do with the amount of money involved, and everything to do with the quality of attention you brought to how you spent it. A budget is not something you set once and obey forever. It is more like a living thing, a conversation you return to gently over time. Life changes. Your income may grow or shrink. Your needs may shift. A child arrives, or a parent needs care, or you move to a new city, or a season of your life comes to a close and a new one begins. What made sense for you last year may not quite fit this year, and that is not a problem. That is just life being what life always is. Even within a steady, relatively unchanged life, a budget benefits from occasional, gentle revisiting. Not a complete overhaul. Not a dramatic rethink every few months, just a quiet check-in, a moment of sitting with the three streams and asking whether they still feel right. The idea is to hold your budget lightly, to carry it with a kind of easy awareness rather than a tight grip, something you return to with curiosity rather than dread. If one month the joy stream ran a little full and the future stream was barely a trickle, that is information, not a crisis, just information. Next month, you can nudge things slightly. A gentle lean in the right direction, nothing dramatic. If the needs have grown because of something outside your control, prices rising, circumstances shifting, then you look with clear eyes at what adjustment is possible. Perhaps the joy stream gets a little thinner for a season. Perhaps you find a place where a need can be met more gently. Perhaps the future stream pauses briefly while you stabilize. None of those are failures. They are responses to reality. And reality deserves responses, not reproach. A good budget has flexibility built in because life is not rigid. You are not rigid. You are a person moving through a life that surprises you, that changes on you, that brings difficulty and grace in turns. The budget is in service of that life, not the other way around. Hold it lightly, revisit it kindly, adjust it when it needs adjusting, and then let it rest. One thing worth saying quietly before we come to the end is this. Everything we have talked about tonight is really not about numbers. Not at its heart. It is about attention, about intention, about a relationship with the choices, small and large, that make up a financial life. The numbers are just the language we use to describe what is happening. They are not the point. The life being shaped by those numbers is the point. When you imagine your three streams, you are not imagining figures on a page. You are imagining the shape of a life. A life where the basics are steady and secure, where there is room for pleasure and meaning, where something patient and quiet is growing in the direction of freedom. When you give every coin a job, you are not doing accounting. You are practicing a kind of care. Care for your future self, who will one day need what you are setting aside today. Care for your present self, whose joys and small pleasures are legitimate and deserve to be provided for. Care for the people who depend on you, whose security is tied to yours. And when you align your spending with your values, you are not optimizing a budget. You are practicing self-knowledge. You are asking again and again, in 100 small ways. Who am I? And is the way I am spending my time and money actually reflecting that? Those are not small questions. They are the questions of a life examined with care, and they deserve to be held with gentleness and patience, not urgency, not fear, not shame. Money is just the medium. It is the material we have been given to work with, and like all materials, it takes the shape you give it. Tending to it thoughtfully, not obsessively, not anxiously, but with a quiet and steady attention, is a practice of tending to your life itself. That is worth doing, and it does not have to be hard. You have come a long way tonight, through 3 streams and quiet intentions, through the idea that a budget is not a cage, but a kind of compass, through the practice of tracking lightly, of adjusting gently, of letting spending become an expression of what you care about rather than an accident of habit. You do not need to remember all of it. Not tonight. What matters, if anything at all stays with you as you drift toward sleep, is the feeling of it. The sense that money, approached with calm and intention, does not have to be a source of worry, that it can be something quieter than that, something you tend to rather than something that troubles you. The 3 streams are a patient image. Let them stay with you. Needs being met, joys being allowed, the future being quietly built. Let your body settle now. Let the weight of the day begin to dissolve. If there is one thing from tonight that landed softly, one image, one phrase, one small shift in how you think about money, let it rest in the back of your mind. It will still be there in the morning. You do not need to hold it tightly. It will keep. And in the morning, when your feet touch the floor and the day begins again, you can carry a little of that quiet intention with you, not as pressure, not as a list of things you must now go and do, just as a gentle awareness, a soft readiness to let your money flow a little more like you. For now, there is nothing to do, no decision to make tonight, no spreadsheet to open, only the easy dark and the breath coming in and the breath going out. The streams are flowing. The future is quietly being built. Everything right now is enough. Sleep well